Welcome to this next episode of YouTube, where we actually did a chemical mobilization on Luna today and took some x-rays. You may recall in the last couple of episodes of YouTube we've talked a little bit about some concern about a limp that she had, and again, a little mobility issues especially when it got cold. And we know that Luna's obviously probably going to have troubles throughout her life, but we wanted to make sure that it wasn't something that was repairable. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't the plate or the screws that may have migrated or caused some issues. So we, in consult with the University of Minnesota, we decided to immobilize her so that we could take her to the vet clinic here in Ely and get a full extension of that leg, or as best as we can, and get some x-rays of that. So what you're seeing here is actually the day before, typical scatter some kibble, and after we let Denali out and give him something to kind of distract himself on. And you can see Luna's a little bit stiff there. So we drugged her at about 8 o'clock. This is a clip of her at about noon. She did extremely well under immobilization, had a good set of x-rays taken. We have sent down the radiographs and hope to have a interpretation from the University of Minnesota early next week, and we'll be able to again make an assessment of what's best for Luna, not only physically, but as we talk about these details, what's best for her from the standpoint of pack dynamics and interaction. By noon, she was resting comfortably. You can see that she's got her dog bed and her blanket. And we decided to feed her. She got a deer leg so that she could fill up on some food prior to going back into the pack. And so we let her feed on that, and we put her in at about 1:30 in the afternoon. And we didn't want to keep her out too long because we certainly didn't want the rest of the pack to focus on her to cause, any kind of issues for her because she was separated. So, but we wanted to make sure that, again, she had an opportunity to fill up. We had not fed her in the morning prior to the immobilization because we didn't want to have meat in her system or large quantities of meat in the system. There's always meat out there. There's always caches for her to eat. So made sure that she was completely up and feeling pretty good, and then we allowed her to feed. So she rested comfortably, and then I opened up the kennel door. I took the dog bed out, obviously, because I'm sure Denali would have had fun with that. Left the deer leg in. Left Oscar out so Oscar could help to be a little bit of a distraction at the edge of the fence. And here's Luna coming out, obviously a little intimidated. The one thing that I didn't quite do that I probably should have done is that she had some rectal temperatures taken, so she had some Vaseline that was used, and they were sniffing that, and that's causing her a little bit of anxiety. Not too bad. She's not tucking her tail in fear, but definitely a little bit of curiosity coming from the other wolves. The reason why we chose to do this now is that we had a warm spell, and we know that the wolves are a little bit calmer when it was warm. So if this would have been a cold day, we probably wouldn't have gone through with this, but we needed to know. We needed to know for Luna's sake, how is she doing? How is she healing? So as is standard protocol for us, we saturate the place with food. So there's another deer leg out in the pen. There's a beaver from the day before. We had pig's ears out there, giving a lot of extra meat, a lot of distractions. And you can see, again, they're sniffing her, but no aggression towards her from the separation. So we were very, very happy about that. We put some extra beef and gravy that we tried to feed Luna. She didn't want to eat, and we put that out in the pen after we fed. So that's what's on the rock there. Yeah, she's a little sore because obviously with under anesthesia and the x-rays, we're trying to get full extension of her legs, so she had a lot of manipulation of her legs, so she was a little sore, but definitely back in the pack, and we were very happy about how smooth it went. We were a little worried that Bolts was going to be kind of picking on her, but we see a little jaw sparring there from Bolts. Bolts following her a little bit, but really not any issues for her coming back in. We certainly wouldn't have wanted to keep her any longer. We kept her enough that we were certain that she was out of the influence of the immobilization drugs. We wanted to make sure she had a good belly full of food, so she didn't have to compete with anybody. And that was about the outer limit of how long we wanted to separate. We may not be able to do that when she's a year of age. We may not be able to pull her out to do an investigation like that. The other thing that we did was we drew some blood on her. Some of it has to be sent out. We did another panel of vitamin D because that was her deficiency. That had to be sent out. But we did some in-house blood work on the calcium. And the way the vet clinic described it, she is on the high end of perfect for calcium. So again, we that wasn't always her issue because early on she had calcium levels, but she didn't have the vitamin D to draw that calcium in. But we'll get the vitamin D results probably next week. But we are happy about the calcium levels. They're in a perfect range, so that's good. She does eat a lot of bone. She's very much likely to eat rib cages and chicken bones and things. She's very, very keyed into actually bones. Her preference is to have things with bones versus boneless. You cut off some venison, she doesn't want to eat it, but you give her a deer leg, she can gnaw on the scapula or the bone. She's doing real good. So we were happy that Aiden, again, was seeming to continue to guard her. Little posturing with Denali here, but they were actually fairly calm when she came back in. She was roughhousing with Bolts. Aiden was back to his same kind of standing next to her, guarding her, walking with her, and again, that was a very good result for us. We obviously are worried about Luna. The pen is got a lot of rocks, a lot of holes, a lot of things that can cause her, an injury. So we're, obviously always worried about that, especially with our experience with Maya. We will continue to, try to, anytime we see anything that's a real hazard, try to continue to, protect her as best as we can. But she is holding her own, and here she and Aiden are doing a tug of war over one of the deer legs, and you can see even though Aiden's, quite a bit bigger than she is. Luna weighed in at 67 pounds yesterday, and Aiden's 125 pounds, and here he chooses to bring the deer leg over to me. She can hold her own, and Aiden, there was kind of a grin on his face there. That wasn't too serious. That was just a little bit of a tug of war, and Luna eventually got the deer leg. So Denali, he's not so kind when it comes to food. He does take it from the pups. But here's a pig's ear, and again, thanks to Paul and Chris and Art and Vicky and Gail, Cameron, thank you guys for sending pig's ears. We're using them, and again, we use them as distractions. And here's Denali chewed on his pig's ear, but decided to cache it. And there's many more things in there for Denali to eat. So. Keeps him out of our way, keeps him occupied, and again, especially when we're doing some hands-on with Luna. But caches don't last very long here. Here's Bolts coming in, and he's going to dig it up. And actually, Bolts is also food saturated. He's been eating on deer and had a little bit of moose earlier in the day, so he's not all that interested. Leaves it and then decides to come back and dig it up, and actually gets to it, does a little bit of a shake, and then just kind of drops it and leaves it back in the hole where it was. So lots of pigs are laying around, but Luna was not too far behind Bolts, and she actually picked it up. She did in this clip, but she actually later got it. So again, Bolts doing good. We're really trying to get footage of Bolts and Luna howling. Shadow starts a howl, and we thought we were going to get it from Bolts, but lo and behold, he listens, but they do not speak. So we have had them howl. We been in the building and heard them howling, but for the most part, it's Shadow that's continually doing the howling here, and not too much else. So by the probably 3 o'clock hour, an hour and a half into the introduction for Luna back in, she takes her deer leg, stashes it in the slate den, and she's going to just sit there in front of the den and guard it. So the slate den's full of straw, the main den's full of straw, and she cached her deer leg in there and just kind of hung out. And that's how she spent most of the rest of her afternoon. So like I said, we were, this was kind of a quick decision for us to take a look at this. The warming trend, we knew that the wolves were going to be hot and they were going to be laying down. And warm is relative. I mean, I think it was, 52 degrees today. For a wolf, it's hot. For humans, we still have 3 layers of clothes on. But this was important to us to get a look at this. We again, are still having a little struggle with the supplement. We had to back off a little bit. We were getting too much negative conditioning from the application of the paste. She will not willingly eat the supplement, so she was getting butter balls that were put in her mouth, and her muzzle was held shut to melt those butter balls and absorb that paste. And it just wasn't worth the effort of negative conditioning. She was avoiding us. She didn't want to take food from us, and we don't want that. We want Luna to willingly take food, to willingly interact with us. We need to be able to care for her, and so we're backing off on the supplement a little bit. And we were basically hoping to get it into her while she was up to like 75, 80 pounds. We're at 67. We've decided to hold off. We're going to try to get her to eat it in meat if we can, but at this point, that's where we're at with her. So for the rest of them, obviously with Grizzer, Luna's right in the medical pen, so he can see her, and that caused him a little bit of anxiety. Certainly, the fact that she was immobilized and there was staff in there with her, and maybe there's a memory of the medical pen for him, but he got a little worked up. So he got a deer leg as part of that, calm down, focus on something else. But he continually was watching. He was watching from the side. And then when staff would come in, he was very clingy, right next to me, trying to, get as much contact as possible. And you can see him panting a little bit. That's from temperature. Again, 52 degrees is warm when you got a full winter coat on. But also just a little bit of anxiety. So it took him a little while. He definitely needed, while Luna was in recovery, he needed us to spend some time with him and to help him relax. And so that was part of our responsibility as well, not just to manage Luna, but to manage every wolf here on exhibit. And he's doing good. The head's completely healed. I still have not washed off that antibiotic. That's one of the things I meant to do before things started happening with Luna. This morning was just kind of comb it out, but whatever he scraped it on, it was, short term. He's healed up pretty well. And, just really a pleasure to work with. I mean, he's got his moments, and he makes a lot of noise when there's food going on here and he doesn't get fed, but he's a joy to work with, and, and we are so thankful for the opportunity that Grizzer has in teaching us about wolves and teaching people how to interact with wolves. He's kind of the stepping stone or the starting grounds for all wolf care staff who are just starting. And then in retirement, people have asked, now that because we don't have the cameras up yet, that could we have a little bit more footage of these guys? And so I try to get a little bit of footage, but they're hard to film. They're, if they're not posturing over each other, they're kind of in our face and in our pockets and things. So I tried to get a little bit of footage. It was stimulated by some deer that was left over. Malik had cached a rib and a head, and that was all that was left from last Saturday's feeding of a pretty full deer. So Shadow decided to take it out of the den and start moving it around. He moved it kind of towards the back of the exhibit. Didn't do anything with it, just kind of moved it out of the way, and it kind of sat there. But again, they are complete consumers. I mean, the head is the only thing left out of a deer that was maybe 80 or 90 pounds. So they are back to eating carcasses and back to eating pretty good meals, and really put on some good weight this winter. We're very pleased with their condition coming into winter. And this is Malik here again, a little bit full from Saturday night's deer, and this was filmed today, Friday, so they're ready for their next feeding, which is going to be beaver. We did get some beaver that were controlled for some road damage, so we've got some beaver in, even though the trapping season hadn't started for another week or so. He's going to check me out and see, what I've been up to and where I've been, and so he's really sniffing quite a bit. And then he decides to go in for my pockets, and that's kind of where we like to try to put an end to things when he gets into your pockets. That's it, and that's the best I could get for the retired wolves. I'll try to get some more, hopefully, in the next week's clip. So that's it for YouTube this week. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.